Hello, welcome back to the other side with your host ASOS. It's spooky kooky time. We're going to Marfa, Texas. Let's go. I know that I'm a little behind on a video. I know, okay? There was a winter storm last week. There was a lot going on. I know that I was supposed to get a video up last week. I am so terribly sorry. There was a winter advisory here in El Paso, Texas, and I just did not feel like doing anything. Okay, I'm gonna be blunt with you. I did not feel like doing anything. So, anyways, this time, like I said in the intro, we are going to Marfa, Texas. I love Marfa, Texas. I actually grew up in Marfa, Texas. I grew up in Marfa, Texas. I grew up in Presidio. I grew up in Alpine. That whole little itty bitty town area, which I'll put up on a map, I grew up there. I love it there. I think that that area is just so rich, not just in history, but in the spooky, kooky, ookinesses. It has so many ghost stories. What you need to understand about this little trifecta area, well, it's also included with like Fort Davis, it's included with Marathon, it's also included with the Big Bend region, like that whole area. The reason why, to me, I feel like it does have a lot of spooky, kooky, ookiness in it, and why I feel like it's such a good place to go to, is because of its history. Originally, this area was the original I-10, like through Fort Davis, it was the original I-10, and in Marfa and in Alpine, that's where the railroad crossing would go through. So this whole area used to be the hub to travel back in the day, and they made forts. There's a fort in Marfa, there's a fort in Fort Davis, and what these forts would do was they would actually protect people who were traveling westward to California from the Native Americans, because the Native Americans would get up in the mountain area and they would attack, because for obvious reasons. I mean, can you blame them? I'm so sorry. Like, can you really blame them? Like, you're on their land, building on their land. Anyways. And also, the Spanish came through. There's conquistador stories throughout. And there's even modern history. In these small itty bitty little Texas towns, there was segregation here. Now, there is always, in Alpine mainly, it is where one side of the railroad tracks was for whites and the other side of the railroad tracks was for Hispanics. Yes, I'm not talking about segregation of blacks or African Americans or even the Asian population, because I know that the Chinese Exclusion Act happened. No, 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 no. Here in Marfa, Alpine, Fort Davis, Presidio, even though Presidio is a little bit more Hispanic population, they had segregation. And the one where you notice it the most and where they cannot hide that they had segregation is in Alpine. Like I said, in Alpine, the railroad track. You see it. To this day, you see the segregation of Mexican Americans in Alpine, Texas. They had a different high school. They had grocery stores on that side. They had restaurants on that side. The Mexican restaurants in Alpine, Texas, across the railroad track. And they've been there for years. And what's even crazier and wilder is that the church, the Catholic Church, is across the railroad tracks as well, and the park there. But there's two different parks in Alpine. So there's the one across the railroad tracks, and then there's one on the other side of the railroad tracks. But yeah, there is separate schools for Mexicans, separate schools for whites. That is how it was back in the day in this area. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the ghosts. So I have a personal experience in Hotel Paisano, and I think that this hotel is very, very spooky, very, very kooky. The hotel was constructed in 1929, but then the stock market had crashed and the Great Depression had began. The hotel was one of 5 being developed by Charles Bassett in El Paso, Texas. So this man is from El Paso, Texas, and he was developing out there. And actually, you see this a lot, of the connection and the correlation between El Paso and Marfa and Alpine and everything like that. It's only 3 hours away from each other, and I do feel like there's a big connection between all of this area. It's just West Texas. It's a lot of desert out here, a lot of nothing out here. Anyways, fun fact, it was built by the McGee Construction Company, which also constructs most of the Hilton hotels of the era. But by June 1930, and an army full of workers, the construction had finally began despite the Great Depression. They opened 8 months later in January of 1931. It was known as the most elegant hotel between El Paso and San Antonio. The main customers of the hotel during the 1930s and the 1940s were cattle ranchers who were in Marfa to buy and sell their herd. Tourists came to West Texas for the benefit of the dry desert air. The hotel continued to be a social hub for the area through the 1960s, transitioning as a meeting place for travelers who came on the busy railroad circuit. Owners have shifted for the hotel. M. Mullen had purchased the hotel from the Bassett family and operated for 20 years. Then, the hotel switched owners again and everything, but it's still pretty well operated today. And they even have the restaurant, which I think is a very successful hit, in my opinion. I ate a cheesecake there. I mean, that was like pre-COVID, so I don't know how it is now, but pre-COVID, the cheesecake there was delicious. Now, the ghost of Hotel Paisano. My personal experience. So let me tell you about my personal experience in this hotel. So I was going to eat at the restaurant. This is where the cheesecake comes in. And I had to go to the bathroom. And I saw the cleaning lady cart outside the bathroom. I paid no mind. I was like, whatever, People got to clean. I worked in a hotel, so I was like, whatever. Pay no mind. I go into the bathroom. I don't see anybody. Whatever, right? Maybe the cleaning lady's somewhere else. I go to the bathroom. I'm washing my hands. And then I see the cleaning lady. She just appears out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? I'm going to leave and everything. She goes, okay, all right. She starts talking to me. We have a conversation. I walk out. I see another cleaning lady. I'm like, oh, that's nice that there's two of you. I know what it's like. I've worked in a hotel before, so it's nice when you have more than one housekeeper. And she goes, no, it's just me. And I looked at her and I go, I just talked to a cleaning lady in the bathroom. And she nonchalantly went, this hotel is haunted. And I was like, so you mean to tell me that I was talking to a ghost in the bathroom and you are nonchalant about it? Okay, so very nonchalant about this. But there are other paranormal experiences besides my own. And there is a Google review comment that I do want to get to, okay? And listen, if you do Google reviews, you are open for the public, all right? That's all I got to say. So when you get mad at me for sharing public comments, I want you to remember that Google, anybody can Google, anybody can research, never forget. Anyways, other ghosts. So there is a notable ghost, an actor from the 1950s who was filming The Giant, which apparently, like in every single comment, people were like freaking out about the films. I'm gonna go on a side rant, and then I'll get back to the ghost. Hold on. So about this ghost, there was an actor in the 1950s. There are so many actors that have come to Marfa to film movies. I think it was Sandra Bullock. My dad had tried meeting her, but apparently my dad said she was rude. That was allegedly, okay? Don't quote me on if Sandra Bullock is rude or not. My dad said that she was. She was very snotty, very stuck up, apparently, okay? But she went out there to film in Marfa. There's a lot of people that come to Marfa to film. I feel like Marfa is it's like if Austin was like an itty bitty little town, like think of that, like a small version of Austin, but like all that posh and all that like actors and stuff like that. So it's been like that since the 50s. It's been like that forever. It's always been a hub for actors and for celebrities. Why do people go out to the middle of nowhere? Again, to film. It's a nice place to film, if you want to do Western movies and stuff like that. So anyways, guests and staff have reported strange noises, flickering lights, eerie sounds, the sensation of being watched, the typical shebang. Now, in room 206, it is reportedly haunted by a headless woman who terrorizes hotel staff. There are additional rumors of feeling being touched, or someone sitting on the bed. There is a sight of a woman in a white dress, an elderly man. The Travel Channel did film an investigation there. Now to my Google comment. So I found this one, and it was from 6 months ago. So keep this in mind. 6 months ago from today. And it basically said Stephen Nashin said that he was playing a gig there and caught a photo of a spirit in the back of his drum kit, but there is no photo on the Google review though. So I want to know where that photo is, Nathan. Where? Oh no, not Nathan. His name's Steven. Where's the photo, Steven? ¿Dónde estás? That's my Spanish coming through. No habla español though. Anyways, so that was Hotel Paisano. There are other ghosts in Marfa, Texas. There's other spooky stuff in Marfa, Texas. There's other eerie things in Marfa, Texas. There's a mystery in Marfa, Texas. A mystery that has been going on since 1883. This is a hot-bedded debate, all right? Whether you believe it or whether you don't believe it. At the end of the day, it's a tourist magnet, and again, it's been going on since 1883. And for those who do not know what I'm talking about, outside Marfa, when you're driving towards Alpine, Texas on Highway 90, about 9 miles east of Marfa. So like Marfa is here, you're driving out towards Alpine and it's right here. It's like this like little like outdoor thingy. It looks like a rest stop, but really it's where you can see the lights. All right, allegedly. I've been able to see the Marfa Lights. These lights are located on US Route 90 in the Mitchell Flat area. These lights are coined as colorful dancing orbs of lights and have been around, like I said, since 1883. The folklore to this, there is a bunch of different folklore. So a lot of people say maybe it's the Apache. Maybe it has to do with the indigenous people in the area. Maybe this is what they did to the land essentially because of all of the colonization happening. Some people say that it's spirits of conquistadors. There's even theories of like an atmospheric mirage. People have tried to debunk them as car headlights, but it has not been successful. There is an annual Marfa Lights festival now. So if you guys ever go out to West Texas, I definitely recommend that you guys go and you try to check out the lights. You try to figure out for yourself, what do you believe that it is? Because like I said, people have tried to debunk them. They have tried, they have failed. They have never been successful in debunking these Marfa Lights. It is not, it could be paranormal. It could, like I said, it could be the spirits. It could be indigenous related. Whatever it is, at the end of the day, there's just like these little lights like in the distance that just don't make any sense to anybody at all. So anyways, this was The Other Side, hosted by ASOS. We went to Marfa, Texas. It was spooky, it was kooky, it was ooky time. I hope you guys have a good one. Goodbye.